This is an overview of our residency program that I hope is informative and will encourage you to apply. First, our mission: we aim to train and graduate academic neurosurgeons who are technically excellent, have great technical skills, and are ready to practice neurosurgery. Our graduates will be ready to carry out independent research to pursue an academic career. Of course, we want to train well-rounded, empathetic individuals who are very good people, great physicians, and who want to make a difference in our field and in society. I want everyone to know that we want to foster an environment of inclusivity and diversity. So the overall outline, I want to touch upon three main topics, one being the clinical training. The second portion will be on academic development. Lastly, talk about the training environment. So a little bit about myself. I have been program director since 2012. I trained at UCLA. My clinical focus is endoscopic skull base surgery primarily. I'm very privileged to work with extraordinary program coordinator, Colleen, and I also have great help with three associate program directors: Luke Quisen, who focuses on resident wellness; Jeff Colby, who manages our curriculum; and Dan Liu, who is in charge of the research component of our residency. We are led by Dr. Liao, who has been the chair of the department since 2017. Of note, she's only the second woman chair of a neurosurgery department in the United States. She also trained at UCLA. She's a member of the National Academy of Medicine, and she is the first woman chair of the American Board of Neurological Surgeons. What makes our residency program is our residents, and we have a fantastic team of residents, and I invite you to explore our website and to view this video, short individual interviews of each one. Let me start off on the clinical training. We have neurosurgeons who are experts in every field, every subspecialty of neurosurgery. We have 5 teaching hospitals that residents rotate at all of these core hospitals. Ronald Reagan Hospital, we refer to as Reagan. It's a 540-bed hospital that performs over 1,500 inpatient neurosurgical operations a year. Right next door to the hospital is our outpatient surgical center, which there's over 400 procedures performed there. Harbor UCLA Medical Center is a Los Angeles County medical center. The residents call it the gem of our residency because primarily of the high degree of autonomy they enjoy during their rotations at Harbor. Santa Monica UCLA Medical Center, our residents rotate there for 4 months as a PGY3, where they focus on spinal neurosurgery and get an outstanding experience in MIS procedures. Kaiser is another core rotation during the 5th year of residency. It's predominantly a spine rotation with an emphasis on complex and advanced spine procedures. Rounding out the 5 is our VA hospital, which is just a mile down the street. The senior resident enjoys a lot of autonomy running that service. So let me talk about the operative experience. And I'm going to break it down first by saying that with these 5 hospitals, there's over 4,000 operations performed annually. And that if you're familiar with the book Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell, repetition is what is needed to acquire expertise and proficiency with any endeavor. Our graduates graduate with a mean number of lead cases of about 1,500 cases. That in itself is not sufficient. And what's needed also is a high quality of experience, meaning that the resident, you need to do the operation. You need to have progressive graduated autonomy. So when you're finished, you are performing these operations. And this is where the 5 different hospitals really complement each other, with each providing varying degrees of autonomy, all with very good supervision, but allows you to develop to be a very technically good neurosurgeon. We have a paucity of fellows at UCLA by design because this is a residence program. We've always prided ourselves in that, and our residents graduate not only with competence, but with confidence, having acquired this experience. With multiple faculty instructors, you learn different things from different people, and there's more than one way to do many operations. And it's important to learn from each of these experts to get nuances. So when you go out to practice, you're ready to adapt to any situation you encounter. We also need a balanced program, and our residents perform about an equal number of cranial and spinal cases. And then lastly, I think a real bonus in our training program is the customizable portion of the training. Your 7th year, after you finish your 6th-year chief residency, is where then you can focus on your subspecialty or your academic development as needed for your career. This is our rotation schedule. The first year, you spend 3 months on neurosurgery service as an intern. There's 3 months as on various general surgery rotations. There's a 3-month rotation that we call pro, where you learn about neuropathology, neuroradiology, neuro-ophthalmology, and also there's a 3-month neurocritical care experience. The PGY2 year is a 12-month dedicated rotation at Reagan, and then you graduate to a 3rd-year resident where then you rotate at Harbor, your first Harbor senior rotation, and then you also go to Santa Monica. The 4th year is a dedicated research year, and that's the year that residents take their written boards typically. The 5th year, a year where you go to the VA, Kaiser, and then your second rotation is UCLA Senior, leading up to your PGY6 Chief Residency year, which is 8 months at Reagan and 4 months at Harbor. And then there's the PGY7 year, which we refer to the transition to academic practice. So there's many different options that our residents can choose from for that PGY7 year. And one is just to gain more clinical experience in some surgical subspecialty, or they can spend time in China. So we have an elective away rotation in Hangzhou, China, as part of our international global neurosurgery efforts. And that rotation is focused on open cerebral vascular surgery. The second affiliated hospital there receives over 600 subarachnoid hemorrhages per year, and they do over 300 craniotomies for aneurysm clippings at that hospital. As you can see on the right, had an outstanding experience where he clipped 50 aneurysms in less than 3 months. Another option that most of our residents now are opting for is a hybrid clinical research year. And I kind of look at it as an emulation of a university academic practice where you have time set off to perform research and other time for your clinical development. And so our residents may do 3 days of research and 2 days of clinical. And it's a continuation of the research that they perform in the R4 year. Another option is to do focused subspecialty training, otherwise referred to as enfolded fellowships. We currently have one resident in Long Island doing an open vascular skull base and enfolded fellowship at Northwell. The other option is to complete an advanced degree. UCLA has the STAR program where you can obtain a PhD during your residency. And Dr. Liao, our chair, was actually the first neurosurgery resident to go through this program. And we've had 2 subsequent residents graduate. Jay Houtman, who's now assistant professor at University of Washington, doing pediatric neurosurgery, and Matt Garrett, who is assistant professor at University of Cincinnati. And one of our current residents, Shri, is this year trying to complete his PhD at Caltech in a dual project between Dr. Paradian at UCLA and Dr. Anderson at Caltech. We have weekly conferences, and then we have one dedicated day a month, what we call Education Day, where all the residents are freed from their clinical duties to spend all day with a variety of either case conferences, visiting professors, written board prep. There's an hour-and-a-half meeting with the program director and the associate program directors. On this day, the residents then go to the surgical science lab and then finishes off the day with Journal Club. Other hospital sites also have teaching conferences. Harbor has a Friday teaching conference, and Santa Monica has a Monday spine conference. A little bit more about our surgical sciences laboratory. There are cadavers that are used for anatomy, brain cutting, spine anatomy, peripheral nerve, brachial plexus dissections to learn approaches, including skull base, cranial approaches, spine approaches. Dan Liu, again, a world-class researcher and an excellent spine surgeon, partners up with our residents very early in their training during the PGY2 year, and they identify a research advisor, and then during their 3rd year, work on a research proposal for a R25 research grant. Dr. Liu takes them through this process, helping them along with other members of a resident research committee to help the residents put together an NIH grant and go through that process, learn both either fundamentals or if they already have a PhD, work at a postdoctoral level. The R25 program is sponsored by the NIH, and there's only 12 neurosurgery programs in the country who have an R25, and this just lists some of the recent graduates and the current residents who have had R25 grant awards. And then the last part of the talk is about training environment, which is very, very important. Key to that is academic career mentoring, and this is an integral part of our program. These pairings begin as PGY1. The resident's able to choose their mentor and have more than one mentor, and they meet with their mentor or mentors at least twice a year. We focus heavily on resident wellness, and because life balance is really important, this is a 7-year commitment that you're considering, and we want you to be happy and have meaningfulness, and that you have people who are enthusiastic about you, your education, your clinical competency, and your career. I do want to touch again on diversity because I think diversity both creates and is a reflection of excellence. And if you look at this picture, I hope you see what I see is a diverse group of individuals in many different domains of diversity. And this is a high priority to promote a welcoming, nurturing, and inclusive training environment. UCLA is an amazing place to work and learn. Everywhere around you at UCLA, there's excellence, and that really is important because you're interacting with plastic surgeons, with head and neck surgeons, with research with other scientists at UCLA, and makes for a very well-rounded, outstanding experience. I welcome you to look at another video on our website that basically is a pictorial of the different activities that our residents enjoy in Los Angeles. I want to thank you for listening to this. I hope it was informative, and I hope to see your application in this year's match.